Welcome to the city. I'm Anthony Wilson, the Public Information Officer for the City of San Angelo. And joining us today is our Mayor, the Honorable Dwayne Morrison. Mr. Mayor, thanks for being with us.
Good morning, Anthony. It's good to be here, sir.
Well, you, I know, have been talking to a lot of local civic groups about the new solid waste contracts regarding garbage collection and landfill operations, and you've been quite diligent in doing that so far. Talk a little bit about why that has been an important effort for you.
I think the first thing we need to realize about this contract is that our current contract expires on July the 31st of this month. And although we have had the best trash service in probably the state for the last 30 years, with 2 men picking up anything and everything we throw out, it's ending. It will be over. And so the contract that we have now is a brand new contract. It's a brand new deal, and there's going to be some growing pains. People need to understand that it is still an excellent deal for us and for our citizens, but it's going to be different from what we had. But we've got to remember that had we been able to keep what we had, we would have, but that contract is over. So August 1st, we will start under a new contract, and it's a different system, and people need to become educated about the differences in the new contract.
And I know you've been wanting to educate people about what is in the new contract because there's a lot of questions and a lot of misperceptions out there. What's the single most common misperception or question that you're getting about the new contracts?
I think the thing that bothers me most is the fact that people keep saying we are getting half the service at twice the cost. And that is simply not true. It's not true in any respect. It's different. We will now have 1 trash pickup per week, and we will have 1 recycling pickup per week. The cost will be about 33 to 36, about 33% higher. So it's not half the service at twice the cost. The service is basically the same. We're going to go to an automated truck instead of having the 2 men on the back of the truck. And the cost will go up some, but then Republic has not raised rates on us since 2007. So we've been working under the same rate structure for the last 7 years, with only a slight adjustment that we have allowed for the rises in diesel costs. So the basic service cost that Republic has given us has not changed in 7 years. So.
Well, and when you talk about receiving service twice a week, I think it is important to stress that the garbage truck's still going to come by your home 2 times a week. As you mentioned, once will be to pick up your recyclables, once will be to pick up your other waste. The base rate is going to be $13.97 per month, and that's still lower than our neighbors in Abilene, Big Spring, Midland, Odessa, and Lubbock, and they don't get the curbside recycling or the quarterly bulk pickup that we're going to have.
We still have the best service in the state. It's different, but it is still the best service in the state, and it's quite a lot cheaper than the other company, the other proposal that we had for the exact same service. So we'll pick up trash once a week, we'll pick up recycles once a week. We've got to have the recycling. We must protect our landfill.
You have compared the 2 proposals that we got for solid waste services. You've likened it to comparing a watermelon to a raisin. What were the major differences in your mind between the 2 proposals that we did receive?
When I first read the 2 proposals, and I think it's important also to let the people know, we sent out 7 proposals to 7 different waste management companies to come into San Angelo and to bid on our waste. We had 2 companies that responded. So on August 1, we actually have 2 choices and 2 choices only. That's Republic or with Texas Disposal. And when I originally read the contracts, it was very simple. Republic was willing to really give us some wonderful, wonderful opportunities on our landfill. And it was a 3-pronged proposal. We wanted a landfill proposal because landfills are no longer dumps. Landfills are now major, major assets. We wanted to know what our landfill was worth. We also went out for commercial trash collection and a price for that, and for residential trash collection. And the proposals that Republic sent were just far, far and away a better proposal at first glance than TDS was able to provide. So that's why we went with Republic to further our negotiations, so that we were able to get the very best service at the very best price that we could get for our citizens.
You mentioned the curbside recycling a little bit earlier. Why was that an important service in your mind for the city to offer?
We have got to save our landfill. My wife and I checked our garbage here last week, and half of the stuff we throw away are things that we could recycle. So we have a maximum of 18 and a minimum of 14 years left life service out of our landfill. And with the influx of people and the building that's come into our city in the last couple of years, our landfill is filling at an alarming rate, and we absolutely must slow this down and get the maximum amount of years out of our landfill. By recycling, we can do this. If we put only in the landfill the garbage that we have, our waste, and then our plastics and our tin and our aluminum, and the other things that we can recycle, we can keep those out of the landfill and we can protect our landfill. It's very, very expensive to redo it, to rebuild a landfill, to buy a landfill. It's very expensive to work a landfill, and it is very, very expensive to close a landfill. We must protect our landfill.
So it saves the city money, which in turn saves the citizens money.
That's the way it works.
One of the other new services that we're going to be offering is quarterly pickup of bulk items, things like furniture or appliances or some building materials. Why was that important in your mind to have that new service?
This is one of the things that the citizens told us that they wanted. And they wanted to be able to take that old couch or that old chair or that old mattress, that old water heater. Now, they're still not going to pick up things with Freon in them, such as freezers, refrigerators. That's still going to have to be handled in a different way. But these big bulk items, up to 5 cubic yards, and this is going to be something that is scheduled, and they will come by and pick these things up and haul them off. And this is part of our $13.97 a month proposal for trash service. They'll do this 4 times a year. I think this is probably one of the greatest things about our about the proposal.
As you're talking to customers about these things and citizens with a lot of questions, what are the responses that you're getting? I mean, is the light coming on for a lot of people who may not have fully understood what's in these contracts?
You know, we've been muzzled on this. We knew what was in the contract. We knew both contracts. We knew what was offered. We knew the money amounts that were charged. We knew what they were willing to give for the landfill. But this was a contract that had to be negotiated. We asked for options, and these options came with a price, with a variety of prices. So this was not a contract where we asked for a specific item and they gave us a specific price. It was not a closed proposal, it was an open proposal. Therefore, we had to have the opportunity to negotiate. People didn't understand that, and possibly I, as mayor, did not emphasize that enough, that this contract had to be negotiated. But you've got to make your bet before you show your cards. We had to negotiate this out before we were able to release the contents of both proposals, and we had to negotiate to get the best deal for our customers. And that basically is the way it worked.
Of course, the garbage collection is something that touches every household in San Angelo, so it's been a point of interest and impact for a lot of people. But from a financial standpoint, the landfill operations contract is really important to the city. Talk a little bit about why that is.
I'm going to read my notes here, Anthony, because I do not want to misspeak. But the Republic has offered to pay us a one-time royalty fee on our landfill of $3.6 million. That's an upfront check. That's found money. They have also said that they would put $4.735 million into a landfill closure trust fund. This is something that the state mandates. Any landfill must have a fund, and ours is approximately $8.4 million that must be in place before a landfill is closed. We have been doing that as citizens, and we have been saving money for the last 5 to 6 years to protect us on this, but we are not that far along. Republic said we will give you $4.735 million, and we will add to this at the rate of $184,000 a year, so that when this landfill is full and we must close it, the necessary closure fees will be in place. They have also are going to pay us an annual lease fee on our landfill of $575,000 per year. They also will pay us an annual host fee of $327,000 a year. Republic has also said that they would take over an existing debt that the city owns for a state-mandated methane collection and flare system, which we were forced to install about 6 to 7 years ago. We owe 2 payments of $335,000 each. Republic has said that they also will take these 2 debts over and take it away from the citizens of San Angelo. So this is not only freeing money up that we have been saving for the closure, but is also giving us $3.6 million as a one-time fee, plus the lease fees and the host fees and the debt absorption that they are taking over for the flares. It is a tremendous asset for the city of San Angelo. Also, Republic has said that they will reimburse the city up to $1.3 million because for a new sale that we are being forced to build, opening a new sale at our landfill, they said that we build it and they would reimburse us up to $1.3 million. So Republic is taking absolute and complete responsibility for the landfill, for any and all problems past, present, and future, and they are paying us for the privilege of operating our landfill. This is a tremendous asset for the city of San Angelo, and it's something that we heretofore have not been able to collect. We knew that our landfill was worth money, but until we went out for the proposals, we didn't know how much it was worth.
Last question about trash. You were not required by state law to go through a competitive bidding process for these services, but the City Council wanted to do so because they thought that would yield the best value for the city and its citizens. In your mind, was that effort successful?
Oh, yes. Yes. You know, back when I was a child, we had a dump out on Red Creek Road north of town. It was about a 10-acre hole in the ground, and a fire burned there 24/7. And that was our city dump. In the late 60s, early 70s, we moved it up to 50th Street, but it was still a hole in the ground. It was still a dump, but we covered it with dirt instead of burning it. But landfills in the last decade have become very, very important. They're no longer dumps. They are worth a lot of money. And because we did not know how much money it was worth, it was necessary that we go out for these requests for proposals and let these waste companies tell us just how important the landfill is to them. And we have discovered that it's worth tens of millions of dollars to the city of San Angelo. So yes, very, very successful in our proposal, our request for proposal. It was not necessary. We could have signed with the Republic and continued our deal. But we wanted to get what was best for our citizens, and we have.
We're talking with our Mayor, Dwayne Morrison, and we'll continue this conversation in just a moment. We'll be talking about the upcoming 2014-2015 budget. But first, we want to spotlight another outstanding city employee, Mitch Sprunger, who is our operations supervisor at San Angelo Regional Airport.
My name is Mitch Sprunger. I'm the airport operations manager, and I worked with the city for a year and a half. My primary duties are just ensuring that our airport is safe and compliant. Since we have airlines out here at this facility, since we receive federal grant funding, there are certain rules and regulations we have to abide by. That's where my job comes in. I ensure that we're meeting that compliance. I oversee all of our maintenance guys to make sure everything out on the airfield is up to standard. All of our training meets the requirements. And then I also do facilities management out here and make sure that all of our tenants and users are satisfied with our services. So it's just a broad range of tasks. I love to be at the airport. I love to be around airplanes. So, you know, when I went to college, I studied aviation management, and now I get to be around airports for a living. So it's kind of fulfilling a dream, really. Well, when I was in high school, I used to work in fuel lining. It's called fixed base operators. I fueled aircraft in high school. Primarily, that's the reason why I wanted to come to the city of San Angelo. My previous job titles were operations officer, operations agent. I wanted to come here to work with Luis, our airport director, just to broaden my experience, you know, get involved with the capital improvements, get involved with the facilities management, the maintenance, learn those processes. So that's why I came here, and it's been very rewarding so far. We have a very knowledgeable staff here working with Luis. He's very well respected in this region. He's been in the industry for over 20 years now. So just getting to be around him and his knowledge base is excellent. We also have a great airport consultant and KSA engineers. So just sitting around and soaking up their knowledge is just very interesting and beneficial. We recently had a lighting project on our airfield. We got new edge lighting on runway 321. And the reason I enjoyed that was just because I was able to increase my knowledge of airport circuitry. Similar to Lou and David, these guys are experts, and I just was able to learn a lot on how things worked on the air side. Spare time really just hanging out with the family. I have a wife and a daughter and a couple of dogs, and I just really enjoy being around them. And anything outdoors, I enjoy running, playing soccer, and I try to play golf. I'm not very good, but just anything outside. A good day away from work would be lounging at the beach, or in this city's case, lounging at the lake, having an umbrella, having a good book, and just hanging out with my family.
Welcome back. We are continuing our conversation with Mayor Dwayne Morrison. Now we're going to switch to talking about the 2014-2015 budget, which city staff and the city council are in the process of crafting at the moment. What are your top budget priorities for the coming year, Mayor?
The council has made decisions on this, and we had a workshop several weeks ago. And we sat down as a group and we discussed the many different priorities that we have in the city, the many different things that we need to do. And first, of course, is water. Water is always going to be a problem. And where we live here on the edge of the desert, we need to find water supplies that will last us for 100 years. We are looking. The Lord has blessed us with some great rains back on Memorial Day, and we've got a little bit of breathing room. We want to continue to look at the reuse of our wastewater. We also want to look at the Red Arroyo project, which is possible that we could get up to 5,000 acre-feet per year. We also realize that we have some problems in our water infrastructure. Since 2000, we have been replacing the 2-inch water lines that supply water to our homes. In 2006, we borrowed money, some $19 million, and we began to work on the wastewater projects in our city, their infrastructure. We also started in 2006 to replace the valves in our water supply system. But we also have some of the huge mains that comes out of our water system that are decades old, some of these back in the 30s and the 40s, old big cast iron pipes, and these things are leaking. So we realize that we've got to do something about our infrastructure, and we're working on plans for that. We also realize that we've got a tremendous problem with our streets. They are deteriorating. They're deteriorating faster than we're able to repair them. We want to get an 8-year cycle involved where we can rebuild those streets that must be rebuilt, refurbish those that can be refurbished, to mill and overlay those that can be saved. But we know that we must work upon our streets, and we must work on them quickly, or we're going to lose them. Bell Street, of course, is something we hear every day, and Howard and MLK and Chadburn and portions out southwest. Some of these streets are in terrible shape, and we've got to address these problems, and that was one of the council priorities. We also, because of the oil boom that we have experienced in the last couple of years, have realized that if we're going to retain and hire employees in our city, we're going to have to raise the wages. We worked on that some with our last year budget cycle, trying to bring those on the bottom up, but we also realize that there must be more work done on this. So salaries in our city employees, especially the working members, that we realize we've got to bring these people up to a wage that we can afford to keep them and also be able to hire them, because oil field's able to pay far more than we are. So I suppose those three are probably the three main concerns and priorities that we have as a council: water infrastructure, water resources, streets, and wages for our employees.
Given the local economic growth that we've seen here over the last year or two, and all the indicators are up, do you think that affords the City Council an opportunity to address needs that we may not have been able to afford in the past, or maybe even the distant past?
We have more tax money coming in now. We've got our sales taxes up, our hotel taxes are up, our property values are up. We hope that this continues, but the only thing that I have learned in my 64 years of life about an oil boom is that sometimes they usually are followed by an oil bust. So I think that now that we have the opportunity of some extra money, I think now's the time that we begin to do what we can do to get ahead of these infrastructure problems. Let's get what we can done, and then if we do lose this additional money, at least we will be that much further down the road.
What do you anticipate happening with the tax rate, which it should be noted is at the lowest level that it's been in more than 23 years?
We have reduced property taxes in the city of San Angelo a dime since 2006. and we've gone down to 79 cents and change now per $100 valuation. We have, as a city, we have reduced city taxes for property. The taxing entities in this community, the Tom Green County Tax Appraisal, that's the city, the county, and the school. City taxes have gone down, and we hope to keep them at that level. And if possible, we would like to lower them. I'd like to see them go down another nickel, but this may take another decade to achieve.
When you talk about making improvements to water infrastructure in order to reduce the amount of water lost to leaks and of course developing future water supplies, those are things that would be paid for by water revenues as opposed to the sales and property taxes that people pay, correct?
That is correct. That is correct.
When you talk about streets, how would you anticipate being able to fund some of those projects? Because as you mentioned, a Bell Street or a Southwest, I mean, you're talking about millions of dollars for each of those projects.
We have talked about, and I hate to say this, but we have talked about maybe a fee, a street fee, and maybe $5 a month that would be added to utility bills that would go into a fund. This would raise several $1 million a year. It has also been suggested, and I think it's also been killed already, I don't think there's enough council members to go along with it, that we divert 1/8 cent of our half-cent sales tax and divert it to a fund for street maintenance and street rebuilding. This is still something that is still on the table. This is something that may come, but the voters would have to approve that. That's something that we have thought about. The city is also putting money into a capital improvement plan, and we have been for the last several years. And any additional monies that we might have, we might put more into this. There's different options that we've looked at. Some of them are not good, and some of them are worse. Some of them are expensive, some of them are not as expensive. But we're going to continue to look at different options because we realize we've got a problem, and we need to solve it now.
You've served on the council for 10 plus years. Do you feel confident that if the council and the city were able to get on a 7 or 8 year rolling maintenance plan, that's something that could be continued well into the future?
I think so. I think we need to get a plan, and we are now working on a plan. We have not had a plan before, but we are now working on a plan where we can make plans and where we can make predictions and where we can buy equipment, make the different things that we need to do to make this plan work. So that's what we're working toward now.
You mentioned 3 of the 5 council priorities that were recently adopted by the City Council. The 4th one of those was improving the development process. What do you anticipate happening there?
Well, we've all heard the horror stories of people that try and build something in San Angelo and the time that it takes and the hurdles that they're forced to jump through in our permit and our planning department. And council understands that. We've heard this from the public. We need to streamline these procedures. We need to become more customer friendly. We need to be more business friendly. Instead of saying you can't do it, even if it's something that needs to be done, we need to say we can do it, and we can do it by doing this. But this negativism that we have had in our permit planning is something that needs to end, and council has discovered that, and we're working to change that attitude.
The 5th priority that council adopted was doing something about the police station, either renovating the current facility or building a new facility. And the cost of that project, depending upon what's done, have been estimated anywhere from $5 to $25 million. How do you think the council is going to approach improving the police station?
I think we need to find another building. Personally, I think it would be cheaper to find an existing building that would pretty well fit and redo the building to make it work for the police station. And there's a couple of options in town that we have looked at and we've spoken about, and I think they're very good options. The police department that we have now was built back in the 60s. They've got some serious plumbing problems, and I think it would cost more to rebuild this than it would be to knock it down and sell the property. We're looking at several different options. If we can do it for an amount that the council can approve, we will. If it's going to require a lot of money to do this, then it will go to the voters. It will be a bond issue.
Which would be kind of unusual because we don't have very many bond elections, haven't passed very many bond issues. Have you encountered that in your time on the City Council?
I have not, but if we're talking about $25 to $30 million, I think that the citizens need to buy into it.
And I know this is asking you to look into your crystal ball, but what do you anticipate that the citizens' response to passing a bond issue for that sort of need would be?
From what I have heard from the citizens in the last couple of times on the campaign trail, I think that they would go for it. I think that they would go for it. As long as we can show them something that is reasonable, and I'm not talking about excessive, I'm not talking about a Taj Mahal, but I'm talking about a police station that is acceptable, that is conservative, that is worth the money, realizing that we have got 60 years out of our existing police station, realizing that on a long-term range plan, if it's reasonable and conservative, I think the people would buy into it because they know that we need to do something.
As I mentioned, you're working on the 2014-2015 budget. In the whole scheme of what the council works on, how important is the budget?
It's very important. We've got to balance it. This year is a little easier than it's been in the past because we've got a little more money to work with. But we still cannot fund all of the wish list that has been brought to us. We've already pared that list down. We need to pare it down some more. But we have a good, reasonable budget this year. But it's unlike the federals, our budgets have to balance, and they will.
You've been seemingly everywhere as mayor, and you've lived up to your campaign promise to be San Angelo's top ambassador. How are you enjoying the job?
I've loved every minute of it. I've loved every minute of it. You know, I knew when I was elected back in June of 2013, and it was a tough election. There were 3 good men running for it. It was tough, and these guys, we were all friends. But I realized back then that I had to earn the respect of the citizens of San Angelo, and a lot of people in the city didn't know me in other parts of town. So I knew that I had to work, I knew that I had to be out there, and I knew that I had to earn the respect of the citizens, and I've worked hard to try and do that. I've told them they may not like this face that they see, but they're going to see my face in our community. I think ribbon cuttings are important and opening different things. I think the mayor needs to be seen, and I love San Angelo. I can speak for San Angelo, and I'm willing to, and I hope to earn the respect of the citizens.
And if someone wants to send you an invitation to speak to their civic group or attend some function, how can they go about doing that?
I'm the easiest person in the world in town to find. I'm in the phone book. I live out on the north part of town. My address is in the phone book. My telephone number's in the phone book. Go to the city web page. I've got a city phone that sometimes I carry and answer, but I also have my personal cell phone on the city web page that I carry everywhere I go. So you can get to me through the city manager's office. You can go through the web page and call me on my personal cell, call me on my home phone, or drop by the house. It doesn't make any difference to me. I'm easy to find, and I made it a point to be accessible.
We've been talking with our Mayor, Dwayne Morrison, and we hope you'll join us for the next episode of The City.